Hello and welcome to the WIPdown. This is a special segment on my YouTube channel where I discuss a certain work in progress, also known as a WIP, in more detail than I do in a regular video update. This is brought to you by my patrons over on Patreon. If you are interested in joining the community, it's pretty low-key. Some months are more active than others, but all of that information is in the description box below. We would love to have you. So this time I am talking to you about the Stripes by Andrea Mowry. It is a circular yoke top-down sweater, and it is, as you guessed it, striped. There are a few different options that she lays out for you in the pattern. The first one is multiple colors with multiple textures. She uses a fingering weight and a Surrey alpaca, which is more of a sport weight, in her version that you will see kind of all over the pattern. It's incredible, it's beautiful, multicolored, just goodness. And then she also has a second option, which is a 2-color, and I think that option is beautiful as well. But for something like this, the multicolor stripes is more fun and makes a little bit more sense in my brain just for the pattern. And so I decided to use one of my winter countdowns to knit this project. I am using 20 mini skeins. They are 20 grams and I have about 7 grams left over of each cake. So if this is a full 20-gram cake of yarn, I have about 7 grams left at the end of each stripe. And this accounts for both the body and the sleeves. I am knitting a size 4, which is a 46-inch bust. And that gives me about 4 inches of positive ease with this sweater. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that if you're knitting a larger size, that it might not be possible to get everything you need out of one 20-gram mini skein. It's also why I chose a size 4 instead of a size 5. I tend to knit size 5s in Andrea Mowry's patterns, but I have knit size 4 circular yokes for her patterns before, and I really like the way they fit. So that's why I went with that one. And I was a little nervous about having enough yarn. So I would just keep that in mind and maybe do a gauge swatch and see how much yarn you will need. Yeah, it's a little tricky, but this is also a great pattern for leftover yarn. Like if you have 30 or 40 gram skeins left and you come up with a nice color palette that you really like, I think that would be a really good option as well. So I am knitting this on a US 5 needle. I am knitting, somebody's just beeping outside. I am knitting the sleeves and the body at the same time, but all on separate needles. So I am magic looping the sleeves and have a 40-inch cord on the body. So here we are. Okay. Yes, so I'm just very happy with how this is turning out. I'm almost done with the body and the sleeves. I have one more stripe left on one sleeve, so let me show you that real quick. So this is the Stress Knits 2022 Winter Countdown. This is my hand-dyed yarn on my favorite base, which is an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. There is about 80 yards per 20-gram mini skein. And usually that could be like 21 or 22 grams. I never weighed what a mini skein weighed. At the beginning, I only cared about where I was after I knit a body stripe to see if I had enough to knit the sleeves. And I was very delighted to find out that I could knit all of it out of a mini skein. So this pattern gives you a few different options for the neckline. And I did not do either of them. So one option is just casting on your 2x2 ribbing and knitting about an inch for the color and then starting your stripe sequence. The other option is a provisional cast on, and then after you knit the whole sweater, you come back, pick up the neckline, and knit twice the amount that you want for a fold over collar. I kind of did a hybrid of both. I just cast on, knit double what I wanted the collar to be, and then just whip stitched it at the end. And I'm really happy with the result. I've done this on a bunch of sweaters and it works really well for me, but I also just want to point out that this is not what is suggested in the pattern. And then there are some different increases in this that I've never really done before. So you're, I forget what the increase is called, but you're picking up a leg of the stitch below and adding that as, I don't know, but there is a tutorial in the pattern. It's not a normal make one left, make one right, or a knit front and back. It's a different increase, but it's not much different from make ones. And she does kind of hold your hand through that with a video tutorial, which I found very helpful and I definitely used. What else about this pattern? So for me, I'm not a huge fan of cropped sweaters. So I always love the idea of them, that I will wear them over dresses and with skirts, but it's just not very practical for my everyday life. I work at a middle school, high school blended program, and we wear jeans a lot at work. So that's basically what I wear every day is jeans. I will rarely wear dresses and skirts at work. And I basically just live my life in my work clothes Monday through Thursday. So I decided that instead of making this cropped, I was going to add a few more stripes than the pattern calls for and add the length that will make me feel comfortable wearing this with a pair of jeans. And I can also always like tuck this into a skirt if I really wanted to. But for the way that this sweater looks, I just think it'll be more of a casual throw on with a pair of jeans, maybe under a button-up shirt. I don't know why, but I keep picturing this sweater under a jean shirt or a jean jacket. I think that would be really nice. Yeah, so I'm knitting the length a little bit longer. So I think she uses 15 stripes in the original pattern, and I am going to use 20. So I am knitting this peachy stripe right now. So that's where I'm at, and this is where, so I have a few inches into the body, but the thing that I have to account for is I have a larger bust, and that kind of eats up fabric. When you have more surface area up here, it just stretches out the fabric and it raises up the front. So by doing that, I think I will have the perfect length of sweater. Ooh, so as you can see, there's a lot of needles attached, so I have a magic loop here. These are Addy, I think these are just turbos, not sock rockets, but just the regular Addy turbos on each side. No, these are Addy rockets on this side. And then I have my signature size 5 because that's all that was available. And yeah, that's really it. I did get a bunch of questions about this pattern anytime I post about it. So no, I'm not holding it with mohair. I do not find mohair enjoyable to wear. I do have one sweater, it's a cardigan made out of mohair, and I do wear it, but it's just not my personal preference. It's not super comfortable for me, and I love the colors of the countdown so much that I didn't want to detract from the colors at all, which mohair tends to mute down colors. I am not holding anything double. I originally thought I was going to knit this pattern in DK. I was going to dye up my own mini skeins of DK for this sweater, but I just decided to go for it. And for me, with this being my yarn and this being my last winter countdown that I'm ever doing, I decided that it was special enough that if it didn't fit, if it was too small, that I would just use it as a piece of art and hang it on a wall somewhere. I love it that much that I was willing to do that. So this is much more of a process knit than a product knit. So I care more about knitting this thing than having the thing itself. It's just a very sweet reminder of this time in my life. And like I knit some of these stripes when I went down to see family in West Virginia during a really hard time, and just knit it through the season of my life that's been pretty difficult. And I think that's very special to have something that you can look back on those moments and be like, this is what I was working on. This is what my hands were doing while I was dealing with these things. And I think that's just so special. So, yeah, so it wasn't going to bother me if it turns out to be something I don't wear, because I would love to just have this on a hanger and look at it every day. What else? Yes, I'm knitting both sleeves at the same time, but not 2 at a time sleeves. That sounds like a nightmare to me. It doesn't sound like fun. If that works for you, do it up. This is also, I think the sleeve is wide enough that you could do a 9-inch circular needle if that is your jam. I hate it. And it's very important to me when I'm knitting something that I enjoy the process. And so I prefer Magic Loop. I use Magic Loop on everything. I just think it works really well. I know some people find it fussy, and I respect that. I just don't agree. So I don't mind Magic Loop, so I'm Magic Looping each sleeve individually and have the body on a 40-inch, it might be a 47-inch cable. If I'm being honest with you, I don't know which one it is. I can't remember. I think that's everything about this sweater that's of importance, I think. I'm just so in love with it. I do know that I will talk about some issues that people have had with this pattern in the past. The increases in the yoke are pretty rapid. And so some people have had issues with rippling, and I've had this issue with some circular yoke patterns before, specifically my Illuminate. And I don't know if it was the way that I did increases, because I changed the increases on the Illuminate. So I don't know if people are having this issue, like if they substitute a make one left, if they're still having this issue. I don't know, but you can kind of see the rippling happen here. But for me, when I block this out, it doesn't look like it's going to be as big of an issue. I'm a little nervous about this right here. You can kind of see that extra fabric. I am a little nervous about that, but we will see. I, for the most part, have had no problems with circular yoke patterns from Andrea Mowry. I have knit quite a few. My issue has always been with the neckline being too wide, and doing a folded over neckline has really fixed that for me. So I have knit a stone crop, a Mackworth, a pink velvet, and an Illuminate. And the Illuminate was the only issue, and it was probably my tension in the color work, if I'm being honest. Because I haven't seen many people have that issue. And yeah, so I just want to put that out there, because I think there are things to keep in mind. And I was also, because I know people that have had that issue with this pattern, I was also very mindful of trying to make everything very even when I was doing it, and even putting the sweater down on a table and kind of spreading it apart to make sure that it was going to lie flat when it was done. I think that is everything. I'm really enjoying this sweater. I can see myself knitting another one with maybe a more refined palette and not something that's 20 different colors. But I also think it's super fun to do it with 20 different colors and just kind of say whatever, because it kind of reminds me of a sweater you would buy at like the Gap in the 90s or like early 2000s. I feel like there were a lot of sweaters from like the Gap and J. Crew that were very multicolor stripes. I don't know, I'm really into it. And then also one thing about this is these short rows are divided among a few different stripes. I think it's the first 3, but that way you don't just have like this giant chunk of one of your colors. So I thought that was really cool because it looks much more even. I also did the jogless stripes, which once I block it and sew up all the ends, it will be fine. That is one thing about this pattern. There's a lot of ends and I'm not super pumped about it, but I think it'll be okay. I think it's worth it. So with that, I want to thank you for joining me. If you have any other questions about the stripes pattern, please leave a comment below and I will try to get back to you as quickly as possible. I really love this pattern. I recommend it. And I think it's really fun to put color palettes together. It's one of my favorite things to do. So pick a couple of your favorite colors and knit a stripes.